Hey, everybody, it's Mike, Erudite DM, and I am here with a friend of mine, a new friend of mine, I might add, LordMatteus. Wait, let's get this just settled right now. Is it Flint Fireforge says LordMatteus? I remember he was the one who said, you got to listen to this group on Friday nights. They come on late at 10 o'clock Central, but they're great. And he said LordMatteus. And I'm like, what is LordMatteus? What are you talking? I saw the name. I'm like, no, it's LordMatteus. So just clear it up for the record. And I know you're a lawyer, so you're going to play both sides. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I totally am. The story behind my internet handle, which I've had since the dawn of the internet, was there was this guy I hung out with at Denny's back in the heyday of the 90s, late at night, and he would always call me Mateusz for some reason. And then when he found out I started playing D&D, he's like, "Oh, you're the dungeon master? Well, then you're Lord Mateusz." Apparently that's like Yiddish.
Yeah, I was going to say
Uh,
Hungarian or Eastern
so when
European.
I made one of my first emails, it was LordMatteus because I didn't know how to spell Mateusz. So Matteus or Mateus. I've always referred to it as Mateus, but then Vendor Satanis started just referring to me as Matteus, and then everybody else did, and I was just kind of like, who cares?
Look,
It's me.
Matt or Matty Matt or Hey Him Man or Hey You or just about anything. So that's very good. So we're going to talk, for those of you tuning in and watching this, we're going to talk about a system I have not played. I don't have those extensive years of experience with tons of systems, so I'm always kind of looking at things and I take it. Um, it means a lot if somebody like Matt says, "Hey, this is a cool system and I like it." And I came across some comments one night. I think he and Gary Lewis were arguing on the show, on their show, or on X or something about um, Matt's love and fondness for Lamentations of the Flame Princess. So I thought, well, hey, explain it to me, and the people that follow my little channel can listen in too. So that's what we're doing here tonight. Um, what can you tell us? You have 3 minutes. That's it.
Okay, 3 minutes. 3 minute pitch for why you should play Lamentations.
Like speed.
Lamentations of Flame Princess. Well, here I'm going to throw a curveball right out the gate.
Okay.
Lamentations of the Flame Princess, and this is an alternative cover of the main rule book, limited print edition. It's not the rules. Lamentations of the Flame Princess is not the rules, and I know you wanted to talk about a lot of the game mechanics, which we can talk about. But Lamentations of the Flame Princess is really more of a vibe. At the risk of sounding like a hipster, it is more like a vibe. It is focused on weird and horrific fantasy. Um, I liken it to, depending on the module, either going to a really awesome like supernatural horror where like the whole time you're like at the movie theater, you're tense and you're just like you're afraid to eat your popcorn because you're just glued to what's going on, or you're shoving popcorn into your mouth because you're watching Jason Voorhees just do his thing and he's like cutting up people and there's all this, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe he killed that guy that way, blah. But the difference is you're not a passive observer. You're actually part of it. And it's just the James Raggi, the guy behind the company, he has like an eye for like artistic detail. He's a big horror guy. He does all kinds of essays, video essays and stuff on it. Like he knows how to do it. And what really blows my mind about the whole system and the game and the company itself is you will not find horror mechanics in this book. But if you play a module like A Red and Pleasant Land by Zach S., which is Alice in Wonderland meets Bram Stoker's Dracula, you will be scared. You will feel tension at the table. And there's never a saving throw for fear. You're not subtracting sanity points. No offense to Call of Cthulhu. There's no panic mechanic. It's just this amazing writing, some great artwork, and just an understanding of like how to. I call it the Raggi psychological method of game design. Like he knows how to get you to press the big red button when you know you're not supposed to. because you want to see what happens. You want to be like, oh my God, what? Like, what's happening to my character? So and that's one of the things I really like about it. And that is really what Lamentations is. Like, you could take one of the more classic modules written by James Raggi is Death Frost Doom. It's one of the first. It's I think what really launched the company. You can play that with OSE. And in fact, I encourage you to do it because you'll have your normal adventure where you're fighting goblins and you're saving the damsels. And then you go up Death Frost Mountain and experience something that you're totally not prepared for. And it's going to completely subvert expectations and really make you think to survive, which to me is one of like the pillars of OSR play. Is like, you can't just rely on mechanics. You have to think, and you have to like almost have like this negotiation with the game master. Like, hey, if I touch this, or what happens? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? What does it look like? Is it kind of looking like this? And then you're like, all right, now I'm going to act. Let's see if I survive. You
would say there's no doubt that people playing this game talk about things and ask questions in their playing, with the game master that they would never run into in another system.
I think so. Yeah, like especially considering how weird everything is. Certainly, there's an argument to be made. If it's too weird all the time, players don't have, a grounding to really, and so they're like almost stuck in like analysis paralysis. But the implied setting for Lamentations is 17th century Europe. So that's why there's firearm rules in the back. While you do have character classes like elf, dwarf, and halfling, because it's based off of BX, it's encouraged not to use them or maybe reskin them. I've seen people refer to the elf as the dilettante and the dwarf as the engineer, and the halfling is like the hunter or farmer or something like that. But you have that sort of like idea that this is 17th century Europe. James Raggi says it was the worst time to be alive, so that's why I chose that time period. And he said, and I agree with this, no normal human being decides to strap a sword to their side and dive into the unknown hunting for treasure. You're a psychopath, like you're an adrenaline junkie or something. So you have like, what you see a lot of times is like you're fighting normal people or normal things, but then something weird happens. And when that does happen, it pops, and it's awesome. And I remember back in the 4E days, before I got into the OSR, I was so bored with basic fantasy because everyone knew what a goblin was. Right. Everyone knew, oh, it's just a goblin. We just need to do area effects, spells, or this, that, and the other thing to get rid of them, and blah, blah, blah. And I went to great lengths to not reveal that they're fighting goblins. I would describe them rather than say, oh, 5 goblins jump out of the bushes. I say 5 diminutive, leathery green skin things with big bulbous eyes and rusty weapons. But the first time I did that, everyone was like, oh, what is that? And they're like, oh, it's just goblins, right? So it worked like it didn't last long. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where Lamentations, there really isn't like a standard bestiary or anything like that. I mean, there are certain books out there that have a lot of monsters in them, but there's no standard bestiary because what you're facing is the unknown. And that's at the heart, I think, of what a good Lamentations module is. And it's meant to challenge you and make you think. So,
I mean, I haven't played it, and I'm hoping I'll see it Dallas again next year for North Texas. Hopefully I'll be able to get into a game and somebody will be running some there. Maybe you'll be running something.
Oh, I plan on it.
Yeah. So I want to play. And I'm always curious because I think the way I kind of got into this is I bought one of the PDFs, one of the old PDFs, and I read through it and I looked at it and said, okay, obviously this isn't for kids. That's okay. It's not my only filter. But the body horror, the way this guy imagined. We talk about a lot of things that are really scary in our regular games. Truthfully, they're not that scary. We're just pretending they're scary. because we're supposed to, say they're scary, like you were saying with the goblins, So to create something that really breaks that mold and really creates that kind of feeling in the game is really, really a special, hard thing to do. And then, the more I've read, and the more I've listened, I hear people talk about this system. And then finally, after you did, I said, well, I got to have somebody explain this to me. What is it that just makes this thing so unique?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll start actually more like with the system. So, like RPG Pundit, I want to make sure I give credit to him because I learned a lot about the history of the OSR through his videos. And when the OSR started, it was literally just retro clones of the first edition AD&D. That was Osric, and then I think Swords and Wizardry was BX or something like that. And then you started seeing games like Blueholm. I think for Golden Glory was second edition, right? James Raggi's Lamentations of the Flame Princess is built off of BX, and that was the shot across the bow of the OSR. And in Pundit's view, that ushered in the second wave where people were modifying the rules to emulate genre and history settings. Like Pundit does things medieval authentic. That's like his thing. But at the heart of his game, it's BX, right? It's the same thing with Lamentations. It's races class. You got the 7 classes: fighter, cleric, magic user. He calls it specialist, not thief. Dwarf, elf, magic user, and that's it. I mean, there's third-party stuff out there that expands those choices, but at the heart of the game, that's it. D20 rolls. But what he's done is he's really tweaked things. I talk about this in some of my videos, and this is the thing that really jumped out at me when I started diving into it, is the niche protection. When you look at the modern game, and even Shadow Dark is kind of in this category of game design, there's a lot of bleed into other character classes. So like a wizard could like multi-class or get a feat or whatever, and they can now learn to swing a sword and do all right or whatever, and maybe even do decently with it. And maybe a fighter gets a special class and now they can cast some spells. And Lamentations, no. The only character class that gets better at fighting is the fighter. Everyone at first level gets a +1 to attack because they're adventurers, but the fighter gets an additional +1 per level until 9th level. So that makes them like incredibly formidable and necessary. Plus, they have the D8 hit dice. Like you really need the guy to sort of take the hits, and while you're facing down some Cthulhu type horror coming out. Yeah, yeah. But meanwhile, the specialist is the only one that's going to improve on the what I call the common adventuring skills, like moving silently, picking locks, things like that. But the way the game functions, everyone has a 1 in 6 chance of doing it, which is straight from BX. The specialist can then improve, and the sort of like, I guess why I call them the common adventuring skills is these are when you decide to become an adventurer, you're taking on a new profession, and those common adventuring skills are things you're going to need to do. That's just going to happen. So it makes sense to me that the fighter might try to sneak somewhere, but he's not very good at it. It's the specialist who's better at it, right? And in that same vein, the magic user is allowed to wield weapons, wear plate mail. They just can't cast magic, right? But yeah, they're just not as good at it as the fighter.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Everybody stays in their lane, in other words. And does what they do best. What about for a newbie coming into the game? Is there maybe a class that you would say, hey, start here, or definitely avoid this one? Or
oh, that is a great question, because my in-person gaming crew who are not OSR players, that one guy is I would consider OSR. There, some of them are starting to come around, but there's a lot of resistance. They like the idea of I'm super powered and every encounter is a fight and I'm gonna kick its ass and move on, right? And when I've ran a couple one shots with them, they're like, we don't like Lamentations, it's too hard. So I would right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, don't play a magic user. If you're new to the
Is it
OSR,
the magic
generally
system
speaking,
itself that makes it challenging, or why would you? Why do
yes, because I would, even if you're an OSR veteran, like you played a lot of OSE or whatever, when you play a Lamentations magic user, your spell selection is very different. It's still a Vancian magic system where you got to memorize your spell and then rememorize it after you cast it. But the traditional role of the magic user is changed. If you read, was it Matt Finch, I think, wrote that
yeah,
OSR
yeah,
primer, and he talks about protect the magic user because he's your artillery, right? In Lamentations, you don't have fireball. Your only combat spell is magic missile, and it does get better as you gain in levels. Like the fighter gets a
yeah,
+1 each level, you get an extra magic missile. So at 10th level, you're shooting 10. At 20th level, you're shooting 20 of them. Okay, so it is a tough spell once it gets up there. But the real role of the magic user is in Lamentations is more of like I don't want to say support character because that's the cleric. It's more about debilitating and unlocking hidden knowledge. And when you think about like the fear of the unknown, that and that sort of like otherworldly stuff that's happening behind the scenes, it really fits with the implied setting. Like when you play a magic user, you have to be of chaotic alignment because you're challenging the natural order. And there are spells in the main book and in supplements that can destroy a campaign. And I think, and they're designed where I liken it to, if the game master is god of the world, the magic using player has the ability to challenge you and do something that could really change everything, and you are powerless to stop it. Their most famous spell, of course, is summon. If in other editions of the game, there's different versions of summon, and you cast it, then you check a table and roll it and see what you summon. Oh, look, 2d6 deer or 1d4 goblins or whatever. In Lamentations, it's a 10-page spell that you have to make a series of roll saving throws. And if you fail them, you lose control of the summon, and you might bring something into the world that you
I
can't
love
control. And many of like the more powerful ones can destroy a
yeah.
campaign. It's
Yeah,
pretty intense. So I would not recommend
it's
playing a magic. Play
yeah,
a
I'll have to
fighter
get
or a
in there and see if you
specialist.
even like the system first and like the feel of it. Yeah, that reminds me a lot of like Michael Moorcock stuff with Elric and spell casting and relying on his patron and Ariok and the gods of chaos and all that jazz, which I find really, really interesting. It's not that I can't do Vancian or flip back and forth from one thing to another, but have any other games picked up on his style of magic and incorporated that since? I mean, what year did Lamentations come out?
I want to say
Oh,
2008 or no. Yeah,
okay.
2008, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Um, I don't know because his the only thing that's different about the core magic system rules, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, is just that it functions like BX, it functions like OSC. It's just that your spell choices are not the same, and he has modified some of the traditional spells that are similar to the original game. Uh, he did back in like 2016, I think 2014, release an alternative magic system, which was more of a
Wow.
spontaneous caster. And but like similarly, like once certain conditions are met, if you fail a saving throw, you have to check on a miscast table, and
Yeah,
crazy stuff
like a
happens with the
DCC and
miscast
Shadow
table.
Dark picked up on that. I love magic. I
Yep.
like magic. I mean, to me, magic should be really, really, really powerful, but dangerous as hell. Probably to
I
the
agree.
magic
Yeah.
user casting it more so than anyone else, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. And what I really like about old school magic systems is, generally speaking, is like I get the allure of that small like description. If you cast this spell,
Mhm.
this is what it does, like the mechanics. Like I get that, but like the old school game, you get like this description, and a smart magic using player can like read into that and maybe think of a neat way of using that spell and be like, hey game master, this is what I want to do with this spell. And to me, that's what magic users should be doing. If the rules of a game excuse me
Drink. Need
if the
one.
rules of the game
Stop and get a drink. That's in
are
here. That's for this.
I got some water, yeah. If the rules of the game are like the physics of the world, you know, and that's what everybody is sort of like operating on, magic should be
Yeah.
breaking those rules.
Yeah. Well, you said it earlier, the
You know?
natural order, right? It's a corruption of the natural order. Something,
Yeah, exactly.
something arcane
Exactly.
and heinous that's just not ordinary.
Yeah, and look, so like the alternative magic systems, the first book was called. It was a free RPG Day release, by the way, that he did in a hardcover. So like he made no money off of those. I actually hunted him down on eBay, so I have copies. But the original book was called Vaginas
Oh,
for
I've seen that
Magic.
listing, and I'm like,
And
well, that must be an interesting. It must be a one shot. Oh, boom!
yeah, but yeah, that's the alternative magic system. And what he did was to come up with the spells in there. He just because he James Raggi's like a big fan of black metal, death metal, all that stuff. He just took song titles and then just like thought about what kind of magic that would be. And so you have like some really wild spells in those books, and they are a lot of fun to play. And but they're it's that's the hardcore, gory, weird stuff. So if it's not your thing, it's not your
Did
thing.
you get
You know
to
what I
visit
mean?
with him
But
at all in Dallas, or
I did, and one of the books up on the shelf there he signed. So and I got a picture, so I was very happy. We're going to actually try to get him on the second watch to talk about the new releases that are coming out at the end of the month, beginning of August. Yeah, that reminds me, I gotta reach out to him, but
can't
we
believe
would
it's
like to
July
do that.
16th already. Summer's flying
Oh
by.
yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned before we got on that you had a brush with him and with his company and some publishing and all that. You want to tell them about that and that experience, what that was like?
Yeah. So I've published with Lamentations. This is my book. It's called A Gift for All of Norway. It's a 16-page pamphlet adventure. I think there's a few more physical copies at the U.S. store at the Lamentations website. He's got a U.S. store and a Euro store, but you can go to drive-through and get the PDF for like $4.99. I think it is. It's just a dungeon crawl through the body of a sleeping Jotun that is waking up. So if you know anything about trolls and Jotun, they turn into stone. So there's like this mountain that used to be. And so you're going inside, and then he's starting to wake up. So, but yeah, I pitched a few things to him. Maybe not quite weird enough yet. I don't know, but I'm hoping to. I have an idea for something that takes place in New York State, my home state, during the Beaver Wars between the Iroquois and the Algonquin Indians, which got the French and the Dutch involved, or I should say, they influenced the natives. I should say, and I think I think that might fit, especially after publishing the Virginia Disastrum. For years, I've been waiting for Lamentations to come to the United States because all of the adventures tend to take place in Europe. So now that he's starting to do that, I'm like, this has got to be my year.
What is it, the Roanoke?
It's loosely based on that, the Roanoke colony, yeah. But like, I guess the premise is you have these new colonists coming in, but there's also these extra dimensional colonists from the fifth dimension. So there's like this tear in the fabric of reality that is totally screwing up the landscape out into the wilderness in Virginia, and it's an interesting little point crawl. It's huge. It's a campaign that could last you like a couple of years if you really dug into it.
Yeah. So a lot of have his adventures, his pubs, his publications changed over the years since 2008? I mean, did they start one way and now they've gotten, are some of them longer campaigns or settings, or they all pretty much follow a certain scheme?
That that's an interesting question. I'm going to say yes, because some of like the earlier stuff that he published had like elves and dwarves in it, but not so much anymore. And it really depends on what the artists and the authors want to do. Zach S, who's somewhat infamous in the OSR, he's probably one of the best game designers and artists, like one of the best in the OSR in my opinion. And so Red and Pleasant Land is a great example. It's a beautiful book. It's won some awards. I've run it on my channel, and let's see if I can find a good. Oh yeah, here's like his picture of the Jabberwock, right? Just really cool artwork and concept where you're traveling through this like crazy landscape that's a cross between uh, Alice in Wonderland and Bram Stoker's Dracula, where the King and Queen of Hearts, the four suits, they're all vampire lords, and all their underlings are different versions of vampire. And so you're trying to go through this like land to survive it. It's really interesting, right? So, but then you can contrast that with so this was published some years ago, and then something that was recently published. I grabbed a bunch of books in preparation for this. So this was just published a few years ago. It's called the Yellow Book of Breckenvold, and it's like a twisted Harry Potter mages school, but it's got Arthurian themes. So like Camelot is referenced, Merlin is referenced, and but it's at the end of the day, it's like this. You have these teacher NPCs that can give you clues about the mega dungeon that resides underneath the school, and it even has like a level 0 funnel in here, like your first assignment kind of thing. So this is like more whimsical, right, with a little bit of horror, right? Where while this is whimsical in the Alice in Wonderland sense, it's a lot darker because of the
Is that
more
your favorite
vampire
one?
kind of
The one
thing.
that Zach wrote?
Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. Yeah. I'm trying to think, but my absolute favorite one is the one I think I showed earlier, Death Frost Doom. This is like a standard, a quote unquote standard adventure.
Like a quick start
into
stuff too, Matt, like a quick start rules or something you can download.
He does have a image free PDF of the rules on the website that you can go and check out. And I think that honestly, it's like my favorite OSR system. Like I ran for 3 years a Lamentations campaign on my channel. I called it Lamentations of Elemental Evil, and I just was like, I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna run Gary Gygax's Temple of Elemental Evil, and it was a fun campaign. I had to do some on the fly modifications to a few things that I didn't anticipate, but generally speaking, it worked. And if anything, it made it harder. And I will say that the way, because of the niche protection, the magic user's sort of lack of offensive magic and it's more debilitating type stuff does make things a lot more challenging.
Is there a lot more running in this game? I just feel like there's going to be.
If you were smart.
Any kind of really dangerous OSR type of system, right? You got to know when to pick your battles. It can't be just a dumb, let's go fight everything to the end and all that. And I assume there's some sort of morale rules as well.
Oh yeah, I mean it is based on BX. There, do you want to? I was it the game? Yeah, I was running a game by Kelvin Green, who is a great writer, and his art. I should have grabbed a copy of one of his books. His art's a little bit more cartoonish, comic booky, and he wrote a book called Midwinter, which was based off of that movie Midsummer. I don't know if you ever saw that. Yeah, so. The hook is the players hear of this cult, or like they hear if someone got kidnapped by this cult, and so they have to go and try to rescue this person. And when they show up, it's just a normal town right? And they have to figure out like what to do. Um, I don't want to give too much away, but it's pretty horrific what happens. But when I was running it, there was probably the most dangerous encounter they had was a random encounter with 9 wolves. So I think there was 6 or 7 of them, plus like a retainer or two, and they're all just trying to camp in the middle of like this wintry pass, right? And these wolves start surrounding them. It was very cinematic. They're all like trying to bunker down for the night in the cold. They got a fire going, and one of my players was smart. He goes because he remembers in the gunpowder rules. The first time a gun goes off, it automatically triggers a morale check because people were like, "Oh shit, it's a gun." So he just takes his pistol and shoots it up into the air because he didn't want to provoke them by wounding them. So he shot it up in the air. They failed the morale check, and the wolves left. Everyone was like, "Oh, thank God," because they thought they were going to get mauled by wolves. I was like, "Man, this would suck," because it was like the first encounter. They never made it to the village if they gotten killed by wolves, you know. But that to me is a testament to the system and its ability just to make a normal encounter, quote unquote, normal with wolves very, very scary.
It seems like the
and
system
dangerous.
is in playing it is just going to be better and better. I guess this is true for any game, but depending on the skills of your GM, right, to kind of read the table and be able to tell the story and set up. You were talking about the fear early on that you just can't create a mechanic. Okay, now you're scared, right, because you rolled a whatever. No, use the words, use the language, set the scene, and do all those things. Which immediately took me back to last Friday night and your guest. I think he's French. Can't remember, Max, was it Max?
Oh, Mr. Max Boivin.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's French Canadian.
Oh, Quebecois. So what was that? 4D? Is it 4D that we're talking about?
Yeah, he calls it 4D.
Yeah, which was really interesting. But it sounds to me that kind of discipline in the game applied to a system like this could really be, because it, in the wrong DM's hands, it doesn't matter what's written in the adventure book, right? Because it's going to get mangled or just be dry as dust in the delivery. It seems like you have to have a really good experienced GM to run Lamentations.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, well, that being said, there was a guy running a Lamentations game at North Texas Con that we were in, and I sort of feel like he just sort of picked up the module and decided he was going to run it. And I don't think he had as strong familiarity with it, but like he knew what to do, and so I had fun. Like, oh crap, we got these guys in the trees that are dropping nooses around our necks and trying to. I was playing the magic user, so I'm like, I'm going to put them all to sleep. They fell asleep. They fell on the tree, and when they landed, they broke their necks. So I ended up killing like all these guys with the sleep spell, So like it to set up the atmosphere, I do think being an experienced game master is a must, especially if you want to try to have a good horror game, because some of the stuff like Calvin Green's work is does have its horrific elements, but it's kind of goofy. I liken it to just going to watch a slasher film. You know what you're getting, right? You know there's going to be some blood and guts, and the real question is who's going to survive and will they kill the psycho killer, right? But then you have stuff like from Zach S, which is a little bit more cerebral. There's things you got to think about. The themes are a little bit more, I'll say, academic or maybe highfalutin or whatever. And then you have like more supernatural horror, like Death Frost Doom. You have, God, I'm trying to remember. Is it No Rest for the Wicked? There's there's no monster in that one. The horror is just what humans do to each other. It's very realistic. There's like an army that's passing through, and they're looking for deserters or something, and the players, are just happen to be at this inn where a couple deserters are, and the army starts doing what the army does to try to find out who the deserters are. and there's women and children and things like that, and it's just like, whoa, that's pretty heavy stuff. You know what I mean?
Look at what Cromwell
So
did in Ireland and other places, and that's going to be scarier than anything we play in a game, which is his century.
Oh yeah,
so, for Lamentations.
Exactly. In fact, when you look at the black and white art, this one's not sexually graphic, but the black and white art for the cleric class. Let's see. There it is. So it's got this dude. One priest is hanging another priest. You see a church burning in the background. You know what the difference is? The number of spokes on their respective holy symbols. So there's a difference. One of them's a heretic and he's getting burned. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's
moral
rooted in that, like, dark
ambiguity.
fantasy. Yeah. So and that's something I eat up. Like, I'm a big dark fantasy guy. I like putting my players in that sort of situation where, like, what are you going to do? I mean, if you want to be the hero, you can, but that's going to be hard.
I mean, for me in RPGs, it's boring, frankly, that good and evil are just black and white. Because I find it much more interesting in the real world, again, the moral ambiguity of good men doing bad things and bad ones doing good things once in a while. It's just more realistic, and I realize that's hard to duplicate in a role-playing game, but it sure makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I think it also appeals to. I mean, we were talking before the stream. We've been gaming for a long time. Things were different when we were younger. I love the high fantasy, the good versus evil stuff. I still do. I think life is more complicated, right? And I want my game to sort of reflect that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when Paladins came out in Rangers and Unearthed Arcana and all that, which is probably back there in that rack behind me someplace. But I remember all that, and it was really exciting at the time. And now, all these years later, I'm like, I have to play an archetype that fits in one slot. Somewhere along the way, I'm like, no, I think I'd rather be the thief, and I want to do something good once in a while. I can, but I want to do something bad, or against the law. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. So, just more interesting. Well, what else should we say about Lamentations? I know we could go on and probably do a whole series, but I'm just wanted to keep this kind of high level introduction for somebody who's like me, frankly, who's seen a little about it, watched a few videos, but really hasn't played it. What would I like about this game? Maybe what's the best entry point, that kind of thing.
I think Lamentations of the Flame Princess, as far as the rule system goes, I think you can find a lot of what Lamentations does in other games. In fact, OSE has a carcass crawler where they substitute the thief's abilities with, like, the D100 percentile dice with a D6 system, like the specialist in Lamentations. So I am of two minds on this. If you're interested in Lamentations as just a rule system, go check out the PDF, take a look at it, see if it's your thing. Because it is, to me, it's taking OSR style of play and turning it up to 11. Because you got to be smart, because only your fighters are going to fight, or effectively, I should say, right? So it might be your thing. I like what they've done with the cleric magic too. It's Bless is just like one of my favorite spells because instead of like a +1 overall to everybody within 10 feet of you, you pick one person, roll a d6, add your cleric level, and that's how many points they have that they can distribute to other die rolls for the next 24 hours. It's a cool spell. Yeah, the first time Bless was cast on me when I was first playing this game, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, so yeah, it might be your thing now. But like I said at the beginning of this conversation, the rules really aren't Lamentations. It's all this other stuff like that's out there that can be a challenge. Like Towers 2, this is definitely more of an adult type game because of the stuff that's in it. But it was written by the bass player from Guar and finished by Joe Bittman because the bass player passed away before he was finished. Very cool adventure. It's like it's almost Shakespearean because you got these two brothers and two towers warring with each other with their weird monsters that they use. I showed the Yellow Book of Breckenvold, a totally different thing. Like there is a lot to choose from in Lamentations, and it's just a matter of like what are you interested in experiencing? And if you look at the different types of metal, if you look at the different types of horror, and that is Lamentations. It's like what moves you. I think Death Frost Doom is an excellent start. Kelvin Green's Forgive Us was one of the first adventures I ran, and that's inspired by The Thing. I don't know if you remember that movie. Very cool, very cool. Kelvin Green's work is very good. But I think that's a good place to start. And there's a lot. There's just a lot to choose from once you like really start to dig into
see
it.
one of their pieces, for Lamentations, and I'm like, wow. I kind of feel like each one is almost like a whole mini setting or a whole campaign that I could probably play for 6 months. And build upon. It doesn't feel like it's a one shot. Oh, we're gonna do this one in 2 sessions. They look.
No, there's there's one called World of the Lost. It takes place in Africa, and it's a big hex map. And there's like this volcano cliff thing that has a lot of weird stuff going on. But it's like protected by a force field. Once you figure out how to get past the force field, you can get into and experience the really, really weird stuff. But yeah, you could spend a year with your gaming group just in that.
You can experience the weird stuff beyond the force field in Africa. But once you get past that,
yeah. Force fields. You can find force fields in Africa, wherever. You just turn the corner. Yeah.
And there's some weird shit waiting to happen. Anyway, that's hilarious. Well, look, I appreciate you jumping on here with me. I won't take this too long. And there's so much more we could talk about, and we may talk about it again if you want to. I need to do a little exploration and find some time to dig into Lamentations and try to play a game or two here and there and see what I like you were advising. Tell us what's going on before we wrap it up with the Friday night show with Second Watch. Are you guys on? It sounds like you got some great guests coming up, but other than being sick, you're going to go all summer long?
Oh yeah. So this Friday, actually tomorrow morning, I'm leaving. I got to get up super early. Me and a friend of mine are driving to Madison, Wisconsin to go to VentureCon. So that's going to be like a 12-hour drive. It's crazy, but it'll be fun. I haven't gone on a road trip in a while. But if God willing, the internet works for us at the hotel, I'll be streaming from VentureCon with Gary. But yeah, Friday nights, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard, 10 Central. Gary and I just want to have a conversation like what you and I just had. We're not interested in telling people like what to do. Gary and I disagree a lot. And sometimes when we have our friend Brian on, the two of them really disagree. It's kind of funny. We've had some great guests on, and we have some more coming, like Greg Christopher, the Chubby Funster, is going to be coming on to talk, I think in the following week, not this week, but the week after, I think, to talk about an upcoming Kickstarter that he's going to be doing. I'm reaching out to Jim Raggi to hopefully get him in. We have a list of people we want to talk to.
Out there in the 2 hours, because y'all are roughly 2 hours,
Yeah, it's a late night, and we know that. And that's one of the reasons why I chose that time slot and called it the Second Watch. Is there's some great stuff going on Friday nights, and I figure, it's the end of the week for a lot of people our age, whatnot. They're just going to be chilling, get down, listen to some things, and so let's just make it nice and easy, nothing hardcore. We're just going to have a few laughs, talk about the things that we love to talk about, and call it a night. So love it if everyone goes to my YouTube channel, LordMatteus. Or if you're on Rumble, it's Gaming with LordMatteus. Give me a follow.
Great show. Subscribe. Love the show, and I'm glad Flynn recommended it way back when. But your secret weapon on that show is actually DM Clover. Brian, right? Because Brian, like last week, it was 45 minutes into the show before he ever said anything. In fact, when I met him in Dallas, we were all sitting there in the bar talking and everything. And I'm like, so Brian, how do you fit into this? What do you do while they're doing this show on Friday nights? He goes, well, I'm on the show too. I didn't even realize, but he sits there, but he is such, and I don't know what he does in real life, but he is an excellent listener. something I don't do. I'm
Yeah.
a sales guy, so I just talk and walk right over the close and just keep going. But anybody will tell you that who listens to my channel. So Brian is great though, because he'll sit there for the better part of an hour, and then when it is his turn to talk, and you guys remember he's there, it's like he's made notes and he's got really insightful questions and observations, and it just, frankly, I could do without you and Gary, frankly. But Brian really
The
brings
DM
the
Cloaker
show.
Show. We'll put him on at 1 a.m. He could be the third watch.
And you guys fight the show uploads. Yeah, Gary will be first. He'll be first watch. Matt second watch. Everybody has their own show. No, I'm glad you guys get along so well, and it's a wonderful show. Great guests. I don't know how you do it, but yeah, keep doing it because it's a lot of fun for us to tune in and listen. So.
Well, I appreciate that sincerely, because I was not sure about it. But Gary, I've known Gary and Brian for a while. We used to do a podcast together during the COVID days. And basically when the lockdowns ended for guys in Texas, they were like, well, we got to go back to work. And I was like, well, I'm in New York. We're still locked down. Okay, bye. But we kept in touch. And then Gary's like, come on, we got to do the podcast again. You got this YouTube channel. Let's do this. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm a live stream kind of guy, blah, blah, blah. Well, after the first couple episodes, I'm like, yeah, I like doing this. This is a lot of fun. So, and I love the fact that people are coming in. The chat's always awesome, funny. And that's the thing. Like, we're here to have fun. And if it's not fun, why are we doing it?
One legitimate, serious question the whole time if I'm watching a 2-hour show. The rest of it is just making snarky comments about, Gary complaining because you snored in Dallas or whatever. That's the fun stuff on a Friday night. I'm blowing off steam. But anyway, it's much appreciated. And thanks for doing this, because I know you're dealing with a cold and you got to leave early in the morning. So y'all be safe on your drive. And
well, thank you.
Yeah,
it was fun. Thanks for having me. Seriously.
Thanks so much. And very kind of you to come on. And I look forward to maybe Friday night listening to you from the show. Hey,
hope to see you in the chat.
Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you real soon. Check out Lamentations. And I'll put some things in the notes as well, so you've got all the links to this, that, and the other things, some of the stuff that Matt mentioned as well. Thank you, everybody. Good night.